What's up, guys? Max Finn here with the quiz master, the quiz legend, the ask master, Ryan. Dude, like it's cool. We've talked about this before, but it's always cool for me. Somebody that's been doing this for a long time. You've been doing this for longer than me, but somebody that's been doing this for my entire career. And like when I started it, the courses I bought and the people I initially followed, and you and Ezra and Ryan Dice, and a lot of the guys that we're friends with. And it's been such a wild ride, especially the last 3 to 4 years, getting to be in the same room and then getting to meet and then getting to build a kind of personal relationships and then getting to do business with. It's been this really interesting journey for me. So whenever we get the chance to chat, it's always an honor. It's always a pleasure. I always learn a ton. I know the audience is going to learn a ton as well. So excited to have you. I know we got a short window here. I know usually we go an hour plus on the podcast, but guys, today we have a short window. So we're going to jam a ton of content into a condensed period of time, and hopefully we'll get Ryan back once his big launch is done. He has some more free time.
Awesome. I love it, man. Super. The feeling's mutual. I have a ton of respect for what you do and for what you've built. And it's been fun watching your rise to where you've gone. And the future is bright for you, my friend. I'm really excited and really excited to be here and to have our conversation on the topic of quiz funnels.
I appreciate it, man. So this is a question, and I want to get into the nitty gritty of stuff, right? But a question
Sure.
I've never asked you, and I'm genuinely curious, and you probably have shared it before, so I apologize if you've told this story before. But what about quizzes? How did you get to that point? Is it, there's certain people who are kind of known for certain things, like Russell's like the funnel guy, right? And it's you built this career, and obviously you do a lot more than that, but have built this,
Right.
Career on top of this thing. And for you, it's anytime anybody in the industry hears quizzes, you're the first one that comes up. It's just like that. So I'm curious, when did that start? Where did that come from?
Yeah. So if I go back to my earliest days, so when I started my business in 2008, and before that I was working a corporate job, working in insurance, and then started my first business and entered a tiny little niche market, and the business basically failed. And I couldn't get it going. And so, for example, one of my first markets was the orchid care market. And the first thing that I tried in that market, the reason why I got into that market is because I bought a bunch of orchids for my wife. We lived in Asia and China for about 5 years. Bought a bunch of orchids for my wife, and then literally a week later, they all died. So when I was making a big, long list of all the markets that I might go into, that was just one of 100 ideas that I had. But I decided to pursue it. So I decided to pursue it, tried to sell something in that market, tried to sell an ebook off of ClickBank, which was an ebook on how to care for your orchids, and I couldn't sell anything. And I'd collected some email addresses and basically asked people why they didn't buy. And what I found was that there wasn't really one market in the orchid care market. There were 4 buckets of people that had all very different needs, wants, and desires. And so I said, well, what if I, instead of trying to sell to everybody in the same way, what if I first put people into one of these different buckets and then write 4 versions of what was then a written sales letter? And that's exactly what I did. And that's when my business took off, and literally went from $370 in my first month to $24,000 in a little over a year. Within 3 years, over $100,000 a month. And it was the first kind of breakthrough that I had, where I realized that you can't sell to people in a one-size-fits-all way, but if you break them down into smaller buckets and customize your messaging and the testimonials and examples and content that you share with someone, that for me was the key. And so I did that in 23 different niche markets: Scrabble tile jewelry, orchid care, memory improvement, fish oil supplements, all these different random niche markets. Got a lot of experience and success doing that, and then started kind of talking about it in the circles that you and I are part of. And then big companies started offering to pay me a lot of money to do it for them. And so I kind of just started realizing that of all the things that I was doing, this was the thing that moved the needle the most for me. It was more responsible for my personal success than anything else. And it was the thing that people had the most desire to get help with in their business. So I just kind of doubled down on that one thing pretty early in my career. And here we are now, and built a $10 million plus a year business, basically doing this all day, every day, creating and designing and structuring and teaching people how to build quiz funnels.
I love that. It is interesting when you think about why people get specialized in certain things. And I think there's part of it, people get specialized because they're genuinely in the early days, they're just like, I'm passionate about astrophysics or whatever it might be. And they pursue and get their 10,000 hours. And then there's a whole other group, which I think is like you have a goal and you try a bunch of things to get to that goal and you find something that works really well. And like, this is cool, it's working. And that success leads to wanting to do it more and do it more. And then there's more success. At least for me, that was like with Facebook early on. It was like, this is the thing that worked. And all of a sudden it seems kind of easy and it's working better. And you're early on and you get better at it and better at it. So it's interesting to hear the kind of origins of that being the thing that kind of got you that initial momentum.
One of my early mentors said, you only need two things to succeed online. You need to know one way to generate traffic and one way to convert traffic, and that's it. Like, you don't have to learn everything. And so pick one traffic source, pick one way to convert that traffic. And for me, that one way to convert traffic has been a quiz funnel. And it's been, incredibly successful. Much more important than my success, the success of literally thousands of people who have just followed that same blueprint, followed that same path, and have been able to get some pretty incredible results.
Yeah. Me being one of them. I've piggybacked on, and I've taught at other places and stuff about quizzes, but it's always, I always preface it by saying like, I got into this whole thing because of, Ryan's taught and what he's done and stuff I learned. And then I've just tried different things and put in different markets, and you're like a grandfather to quiz teaching, because I've taught people some of the stuff we've done, and it's from the stuff you've learned. So it's a cool story. Well, what do you think it is about quizzes specifically that make them so successful, so effective, and not just so effective, but so effective across so many different industries, price points, education gaps, like brand new novel stuff that's been around for a long time, highly competitive? It seems like there's examples almost in every niche you can think of, every price point, where people are using them effectively.
Yeah, and we could go deep on this topic. And before I touch on the psychology of it, I'll talk about kind of three big reasons that come to mind. So first of all, just to set the stage, when we talk about a quiz funnel, what we're saying is it's not quite an online quiz. It's not quite a funnel. It's instead, when someone lands on your website, instead of trying to get them to download your ebook or sign up for your webinar or buy your product right then and there, you first begin by asking a series of questions so that you can put people into different buckets. And then based on that information, you customize either the product that you sell someone or the message that you put in front of them. So you customize your copy, your content, the testimonials, the examples, the case studies that you share with someone. So that's what a quiz funnel is. And there are three big reasons why they work incredibly well. Reason number one, Max, is just incredibly cheap leads, incredibly cheap traffic. You can often cut down your cost per lead by anywhere from 30 to 90% when you switch to a quiz. And talk about examples, I can think of dozens of examples. I think of Mastin Kipp. He's in the personal development market. He was spending $6 a lead. Now he's spending 76 cents per lead on the back of his quiz. I think of Sean Penrod. He's in the marathon running market. He was paying $2.59 per lead. Now he pays 23 cents per lead. I think of Beryl Young. She's in the photography market. She was paying $1.67 per lead. Now she's paying 14 cents per lead. So incredibly cheap leads. And the reason for that, everyone always wants to know, why is the traffic so cheap? Well, you got to think, when you're advertising on a platform like, say, Facebook, which is your wheelhouse, then what happens is Facebook will reward you as an advertiser when people engage with your ad. So if you have an ad that people are liking, that people are commenting on with, for example, their quiz results, they're sharing that ad with their friends and saying, hey, take this quiz, it's really cool, you'll find out your results. Facebook notices that, and it drops down your CPL, your CPA, your CPM, your cost per 1,000 impressions, which drives down your cost per lead, your CPL. So you get incredibly cheap traffic and a lot of free traffic because people share it in communities and Facebook groups and all sorts of groups that they're part of online. So incredibly cheap traffic. Now, the reason number two, the question always comes up is, well, how does this traffic convert? Like, how do these leads convert? And reason number two quizzes work so well is incredibly high conversion. You can oftentimes double or even triple your sales conversion rate, so converting leads into buyers, into customers on the back of a quiz, because you can customize your copy, your content, your messaging based on a person's quiz answers. So an example that comes to mind here, I think of Andy Mackinson. He runs a company called Snack Nation. It's an e-com business. He sells a healthy box of snacks that gets shipped to your home or to your office. He decided he wanted to test a quiz. He was skeptical. He said, all right, I'm going to do a 90-day split test. I'm going to test a quiz funnel against my control funnel and see how they perform. 90 days later, control funnel in this test did on average about $3,300 per month in top-line revenue. Quiz funnel did $10,982. Why is that? Well, because he's able to customize how he's talking about snacks based on what is important to someone, whether it's the fact that they have food allergies, or the fact that they're trying to eat gluten-free, or the fact that they want to provide healthier snacks for their kids' lunch, or they're trying to provide healthier snacks for their employees. He's able to customize the messaging of this one product he sells people based on their quiz answers. So he switched everything over to his quiz. I caught up with Andy recently, and most recently, his company, it's crazy, landed at number 24 on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing companies in America on the back of the Snack Nation quiz. So incredibly high conversion. And the third and final reason is incredibly fast results. Like you know, in your business, there's certain things that you do that are very powerful, but they take time. Like a podcast, for example. Like, it can be an incredibly powerful medium. It just takes a little bit of time to build up your audience and grow it over time. A quiz funnel, you can get results really, really, really fast. And I'll share a few examples. I think of, for example, Dr. Tangi Watkins. She was a physician before COVID. COVID hit, and like so many people, she's on the front lines, and she said, all right, I can't do this anymore. I need to make a change. I need to make a shift. So she decided to become a coach to help people in their career. And so you'd heard about the power of quizzes, so she created a quiz. What's your fulfillment score? Take this quiz to find out how fulfilled you are in your career. She launches this quiz. She's got no website, no experience, no product, nothing. She was a doctor. She quit her job. No experience whatsoever. Launches this quiz, 30 days, gets over 5,515 people to take this quiz. And to those 5,000 people, launches her coaching services. And get this, Max, in her first month in business, she makes $20,850 in coaching fees, literally starting from scratch. Now she's making over $40,000 a month as a coach. She's making more money now as a coach working from home than she was as a doctor working 14-hour shifts in a hospital. So the results can happen really, really, really fast. So cheap leads, high conversion, fast results. For me, that's like the perfect combination of what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a strategy online.
Yeah, and those examples are always so amazing. And what's interesting is I think it's become more and more relevant over the. Hope wants to come up here. You have a baby at home, you got dogs running everywhere. It makes doing podcasts much more complex and difficult, which is always fun. But with what's happening between Apple and Facebook, basically, Apple and social with tracking issues and everything going on there, you're losing a lot of the power that these platforms had, right? So Facebook, up until probably a few months ago, you could run super broad targeting, and you could be relatively lazy when it comes to advertising. You could have mediocre creative, mediocre copy, decent product, and still do okay if you have enough data, because Facebook has so much signal data. We're seeing that change dramatically. What we're seeing in our business is a shift back to kind of early days of Facebook, where it didn't have this really crazy algorithm that was so good at finding people, and it didn't have all the signals on everybody and what they did everywhere online. And so you had to get really granular. You had to target very specific groups with very specific copy to a very specific funnel. And what's beautiful about quizzes is that instead of having to build out a dozen different funnels for all these different people, you can kind of build out a single quiz funnel that just has multiple paths, right? So it's also, I think one of the benefits is it's in terms of ROI on time. And you and I both know time is by far the most valuable resource. Once you get to a certain point, like the ROI on time is massive compared to anything else you can do, because you can have that singular entry point, but that exit point is where things branch out and get more personalized, which makes it just a really, really powerful solution, especially today with everything going on.
There's two things I'll speak to there, because you hit the nail on the head. So I'll circle back to something that you brought up a moment ago, but I want to touch on something else, which is this. One of the reasons why there was the whole Apple Facebook sort of battle and kind of falling out is because of the backlash of this perceived big brother, right? Yep. And it's what we describe as algorithmic personalization, where the algorithms behind the scenes are personalizing your experience on a platform like Facebook based on what the algorithm thinks is correct. And so the algorithm is when you and I are having a conversation, and then I forgot to turn the microphone off on my phone, and later on I'm getting served ads on Facebook because it was eavesdropping on our conversation. That's the creepy stuff that people hate. It's algorithmic personalization, but it's in contrast to a different type of personalization, which is what we call interactive personalization. Now, interactive personalization is very different. Interactive personalization is not about Big Brother watching, observing, listening on your conversations and serving you stuff it thinks you would like. Interactive personalization is where the end user is volunteering information about themselves so that they can have a more personalized experience. I think of, for example, the eyeglass company, Warby Parker. So Warby Parker was a startup just a few short years ago, completely disrupted the eyeglass company, the eyeglass industry, and now they're one of the most successful eyeglass companies in the world. How did they build their business? On the back of a quiz. What type of glasses are right for you? Tell us a little bit about your tastes, your personality. Do you like this one or that one? And we'll recommend the right eyeglasses for you. So that's never going to go away because people are willingly volunteering this information so that they can have a better, more personalized experience. So interactive personalization has now supplanted algorithmic personalization as the path to deliver people this experience. Now, to your point about Facebook and iOS and the changes that have happened recently, what we found is that you're absolutely right. Those old, broad targeting techniques of just throw something out there and let God's wisdom, let the wisdom of Facebook show your ads to the right audience, that doesn't work anymore. But what you can do, and what's incredibly powerful with a quiz, is when someone takes your quiz, you're getting all this data about that individual. So you're not just knowing a person's name and email address for opting into your email list, you're knowing 5, 10, 15 data points about that person, and now you can integrate your Facebook pixel, if you use the right technology, like the technology we advocate, you can integrate your Facebook pixel, and now you can build lookalike audiences of people who have taken your quiz and have answered your quiz questions in a specific way. So if you're in the golf market and you found that a segment of your market that's really lucrative is, say, women golfers, female golfers, who are between the ages of 45 and 55, who are left-handed, who have a 5 handicap and play golf 3 or more times a week, like that's your sweet spot, you can't target that audience on Facebook, but you can with a quiz by building a lookalike audience of people who are like the people who went through your quiz funnel, and you just double down on finding more of those individuals. So it's an incredibly powerful strategy right now, and what we're finding is that there's a divide, and maybe you've seen it with your quizzes, where people who are not using this strategy, they're really hurting right now. They're suffering. People who are using this strategy are cleaning up. Like they are taking market share and they are cleaning up. So there's never been a better time, I believe, in history than to be using the strategy in your business.
I agree. I think all of the things we just talked about, plus owning your own data. That's why we focused on building our own e-com portfolio. We have a whole now holding company that owns e-com brands we've been launching and content sites because owning your data is really valuable. Like we have lists now, SMS lists, email lists, push lists that don't depend on Facebook, don't depend on Google. If we need to monetize things, we have newsletters, we have affiliate drops, we can do email list rentals. There's so many ways when you have an asset to monetize that asset, right? But a lot of people are just renting. I'm just renting customers, renting leads off of Facebook, and I'm going back to pay them again to get more interactivity, which is just it's a shame that more people aren't doing this. So I know we're short on time. There's so many other things I want to ask you, but 2 things to wrap it up. So one is, I always like to ask this question because I think it's important. Like you talked about all the good stuff, all the reasons why we need to do this. Like I'm sure there's gonna be some people that are gonna try to do this on their own, right? They're gonna go out there and be like, I can just figure it out, right? I'm just gonna go do it on my own. Like what are mistakes that people who do that making? Like to say, this sounds cool, I want to do it. I'm just gonna go like try to build a quiz somewhere somehow.
Right. It's sort of like if you've ever tried to rebuild a classic car from scratch, like you're like, all right, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be fun. You get the car, it's delivered to your garage. All right, this is going to be fun. And then before you know it, you're like 4 or 5 years into the project and your wife is ready to divorce you because you're just sitting there and the thing's not unfinished because it's so complicated. Yep. And that's really what happens here is complexity kills it for people. It becomes this albatross. People get these big grand visions of, okay, I'm going to create this quiz and it's going to do this and that and this other thing. And I'm going to use this and connect it to this technology and that, and before you know it, it becomes this albatross that you can never get off the ground because you've overcomplicated the whole thing. So I'll share with you, there are a lot of mistakes that people make, but there are 3 of them that come to mind real quick. So every quiz funnel follows the same successful paradigm: attract, diagnose, prescribe, just like a doctor. You got to attract the right type of people who are a fit for your product or service. So you got to have the right way of attracting people to your quiz. You want to ask the right questions to diagnose that person's situation so that you can ultimately prescribe the best next step for them. Now, you got to think about your quiz beginning with the end in mind. So you want to start with what's the next thing that you want people to do after they take your quiz. Otherwise, you're going to create maybe a great time-wasting quiz like the ones that you've probably seen on BuzzFeed. Like, what type of toast are you? What type of Disney character is your dog? Like, you'll get 1 million people to take that quiz, but not a single one of them will buy your stuff. So you got to start with the end in mind. Where do you want people to lead? So you got to begin with the right offer. Every quiz funnel follows the same path. Band-Aid, cure. Band-Aid is the quiz results that you give people for free, where you offer some value, an incomplete cure. And then your cure is the paid product or service that you sell people after they've gotten a taste through that Band-Aid. So you've got to start with the right offer. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two, if we go back to the beginning of the quiz, in order to get anybody to buy, you've got to have the right hook or the right big idea to attract the right people to the quiz in the first place. Every successful quiz funnel follows one of three frameworks: type, killer, score. Type is where you put people into one of several types based on their situation. So for example, Neil Gordon's what public speaker type are you? By the way, Neil was, before COVID, was driving for Lyft. COVID hit. He had to figure out a way to make more money. He'd always been interested in public speaking, so he decides to create a quiz funnel. What public speaker type are you? Reaches out to our customer service desk not that long ago and just told us that he had his first 6-figure month. He's getting 10,000 people a month to take his public speaker type quiz. And literally, the dude was driving for Lyft before COVID. So type is the first kind. The next kind of quiz, killer, is a little bit different. A killer quiz is where you help people identify the biggest mistake they're making in their life or their business, holding them back from achieving the result that you help people achieve with your product or service. So an example that comes to mind, talk about the power of data. I think about in the golf market, Jim McLean a few years ago created a quiz. What's your number one swing killer? Take this quiz to find out now. Well, that quiz, we talked about Neil's quiz getting 10,000 leads a month. This quiz was getting 10,000 leads a day. 10,000 golfers per day taking this quiz. Attracted the attention of a little company called NBC, you may have heard of them before, in partnership with the Golf Channel, decided to buy the business behind that quiz funnel for tens of millions of dollars because they wanted access to that data. They wanted access to that database of over 1 million golfers, not just name and email address, but all of these data points about them so they could sell additional products and services. So that's a killer quiz. Third and final type of quiz is what we call a score quiz. Score quiz is where you're helping people identify where they are on a success path. Like, are they, in martial arts terms, are they at the yellow belt level? Are they at the brown belt level? Are they at the black belt level, or somewhere in between? So you identify where someone is in their score so that you can help them get from where they are now to where they ultimately want to go. I mentioned Tangi Watkins, the physician, pre-COVID. She has her "What's your fulfillment score in your career?" quiz, and that's exactly what she's doing. So first step that someone wants to think about is, of those three frameworks, type, killer, score, which one do you think might make the most sense for your business? So that's mistake number two, and I know we're tight on time. Third and final mistake I'll talk about is asking the wrong questions. We could spend like an hour on the psychology of questions and question sequencing and how you use questions to create desire and demand for your product. But I'll leave folks with one tip right now, which is around the number of questions. So because we have a software technology platform, 30 million end users, 200 million data points, over 12,000 quiz funnels built on our platform, we have access to a tremendous amount of data. So we know what makes a successful quiz funnel work. And what we discovered is that every single one of the most successful quiz funnels all have between 5 and 12 questions in their quiz. So you're asking for enough information. My hypothesis is you're asking for enough information where your diagnosis is believable. Like, you can't ask like one question. Like, you go to the doctor's office, you can't say, "Hey doc, I hurt my arm." And the doctor says, "I've got one question. Is it your left arm or your right arm?" And you say, "It's my left arm." And the doctor says, "Aha, I know exactly what's wrong." You're like, how can you possibly know? Like, you haven't asked for enough information. So you've got to ask for enough information, but on the flip side, you can't ask for too much information because, again, this is a marketing quiz. So the goal of this is to get someone into your ecosystem so that you can sell your product or service. So those are the three biggest mistakes that come to mind: the wrong big idea or hook, the wrong questions, and the wrong offer.
Well, and the cool thing is, if you're watching or listening right now, depending on where you're consuming this, like this sucks. It was so good. I want to learn so much, but it was so short. The beauty of this is that we're doing a workshop. We're working with Ryan to put together a workshop that he's going to be doing, and in that workshop you're going to be kind of pulling back the curtains on stuff. So if you wanted to share a little bit about what you have going on, how people can learn more about that, watch it, consume it, because it's it's a powerful. There's only a few things that like I get really excited to watch. Usually I'll present something. Hey, this is one of my buddies and he's doing something probably really good. But then there's a few things I'm like I need to watch it myself because I always pick up gems that I can incorporate into my business, and this is one of them.
Well, yeah, I'm so glad you brought it up. Listen, if you're watching this or listening to this right now, your timing is perfect because once a year, as Max mentioned, we do something called the Quiz Funnel Workshop. It's a totally free workshop. It's taught live. And over the course of a week, we go through the process of how to create a quiz funnel from start to finish. And we start with identifying how to figure out the big idea behind your quiz, how to test that idea in your market before you actually launch your quiz, how to figure out which of the 3 types of quizzes is going to perform best in your specific situation. And if you're the type of person that likes to see examples, I know we talked about a few examples, but we showcase dozens of examples. So I'll go through examples B2B, B2C, English speaking, non-English speaking, low ticket products, high ticket products, digital information programs, coaching, consulting, agency services, freelancing, e-commerce products, local small businesses, lead gen, complete beginners, multi-million-dollar companies. So I go through dozens of examples, all sorts of different markets, all sorts of different niches, so you can actually see what these successful quiz funnels look like in action. And if you'd like to join us, again, it's once a year, just so happens to be happening like right now. The link to join us is quizfunnel.com/Max. So super easy to remember, quizfunnel.com/Max. As Max mentioned, he's going to be joining us in the workshop. I'm excited to have him part of this. I'm excited to have you part of this. And for anyone who's interested in getting a quiz going in your business, this is the absolute best next step to do. And I invite you to join us, quizfunnel.com/Max.
There you go, dude. I love it. It's always a blast. I hate that we only have, a short period of time, but we will definitely schedule something for a longer podcast once you free up some time after lunch. Guys, make sure to go to quizfunnel.com/Max. Make sure to register for this. It's free. It's one of the most in-depth, comprehensive workshops out there. People should be, you should be charging for this, but you're doing it for free. So you don't want to miss it. Sign up, grab it. Quizzes have changed my business. They've, obviously changed Ryan's business, and he's been doing it for a very, very long time. You don't want to miss it. So Ryan, I'll see you there. I'll see everyone else there, and hopefully we'll get back on the podcast soon.
Awesome. Let's do it. Thanks so much, Max, and see you guys inside. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.